Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
I have returned. Yes, I am back after taking a month-long hiatus and then dropping in 2 weeks ago and then dipping back out. The reason I was gone was due to wrestling. You see, I'd done folk style wrestling, but this was my first year doing freestyle, so I had a lot of things to learn. If you know wrestling, the two sports are very different, despite both being called wrestling. Anyways, I'm rambling. I had to dip because of that. But what's the topic of today? Once again, tornadoes. Or more specifically, their different types. As pretty much most, if not all of us know, tornadoes come in many different shapes, sizes, and variations. And in this video, we'll be going over most of them. But with that being said, let's get started. Starting off small, we have probably one of the most graceful tornado types, the rope tornado. They're usually on the weaker end, usually EF0 to EF2, but of course you can never judge a tornado's strength by how it looks. But rope tornadoes can be fairly photogenic, but for the most part, compared to the other tornado types, they aren't really that impressive. And usually when you come across a rope tornado, it was a stronger tornado that has begun to rope out or die. But they can form like this stuff. But yeah, that's about it for rope tornadoes. Nothing too bad, but at the same time, a nice treat if they're photogenic. But with that being said, we'll move on to the next type. Now moving on to the actually interesting tornadoes, we have the drill bit tornado. Now this tornado is in between a rope tornado and a cone tornado. A lot more stout than a rope tornado, and sometimes even taking on some multi-vortex characteristics. These tornadoes are small but extremely powerful, usually ranging from EF2 to EF4. This is personally one of my favorite types of tornadoes due to how cool they look. This literally looks like a drill bit just drilling into the ground. And sometimes they can upscale, leading us into our next type of tornado. Cone tornadoes, the absolute tornado classic. This is the tornado that everyone thinks of when someone asks them to think of a tornado, or if they think of a tornado. This is the classic tornado shape, is a cone. Cone tornadoes can vary from massive and powerful ones to small, weak ones. Cone tornadoes are just a classic, everyday tornado that everyone knows about. So, yeah, with that being said, we'll be moving on. Our next tornado type is known as the stovepipe tornado. Now this tornado is like the bridge between a cone tornado and a wedge tornado, and is usually supposed to maintain the same width from top to bottom, but most of the time it doesn't. It's just like a more stout cone tornado, and people will call it a stovepipe tornado instead of saying cone tornado, because it's kind of in between a wedge, but it's not really a wedge, but it's not really a cone either, so it's called a stovepipe tornado. Now these tornadoes are usually among the upper echelon of tornadoes. Of course, like I stated earlier, you can't always rate the tornado based off its looks, but a lot of the times when there is a stovepipe tornado and it causes damage, it's usually intense damage, sometimes ranging from like EF2 to EF4. But like I said earlier, you can never judge a tornado's intensity off of its looks. And tornadoes are devious too, and they change, and so they'll go from like a rope to a stovepipe to a drill bit to a wedge to a stove. Like, it's crazy. But anyways, let's move on. Now on to the holy grail of tornadoes, the gold standard for tornadoes when it comes to powerful tornadoes, the massive, unstoppable Khabib Nurmagomedov of tornadoes, the wedge. And you know how I said earlier, don't judge a tornado based off its looks. Throw it out the window when it's a wedge. And some people make the argument, well, this tornado was a wedge and it only did EF1 damage. Yeah, because it didn't hit anything. If a tornado was a wedge, most likely it's at least going to be EF2. And that's just what it is. For the fact of a tornado being able to grow wider than it is tall, it's going to have some intense wind speeds that come along with it. And due to that, these are some of the most destructive tornadoes in the US, making up most EF5 tornadoes. And these are also definitely the most physically imposing tornadoes. Definitely the scariest. It's just something about looking at a massive black wall of destruction as it heads towards you and knowing that there's absolutely nothing you could do but go underground to protect yourself from it. Our next type of tornado is my personal favorite, the multivortex tornado. This tornado is pretty much as it sounds, multivortex, a bunch of little circulations rotating around and inside a larger circulation, which can also often be deceiving and dangerous. Due to its ability to uncondense and recondense vortices, it will often appear as if the tornado has dissipated just for a large vortice to reappear. As you can see in this footage, it looks like there's a single tornado on the ground underneath this rotating wall cloud, when in reality the entire rotating wall cloud is the tornado. These are usually on the upper end of tornado intensity, but due to the fact that it is, of course, multiple vortices, sometimes if a vortice does not directly impact a structure, the damage won't be as bad. But still, there's something so captivating about a whole bunch of tornadoes just dancing under a wall cloud. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but they look pretty dope. But now on to our next tornado, we have the land spouts, which actually do not need supercells to form and form in a very interesting way. Sometimes when you have certain boundaries, such as outflow boundaries passing underneath rising storms, or it doesn't even have to be a storm, just a cumulus building into a cumulonimbus, you can sometimes get that vorticity along the outflow boundary to get stretched up vertically, and it can cause a tornado or, well, a land spout. So yeah, I thought that was pretty dope. Land spouts are alright, very, very photogenic. And yeah, now moving on to water spouts, which are pretty much the same as land spouts and regular tornadoes, just on water. But yeah, this is the end of the video. Hope y'all enjoyed. I hope to be back soon with another video. And yeah, this is KB Weather, out.